Hey guys, so I was reflecting on why I love astrology so much. And because for me, I got a Virgo moon. I love to analyze things. I love to find patterns amongst systems. So, there's a similar pattern between psychology, astrology, numerology, human design, whatever you want to call it. There's always a similar pattern. So, I started off taking personality quizzes that led me to deeper psychology work study, and that kind of led me to astrology. And why I love astrology so much is it has so much depth. The more you study, the more you realize you don't know. But the more you study astrology, the more you realize everything is connected. Everything is really connected. I kid you not. So, for instance, even if you don't believe in astrology, you can look at certain signs and be like, okay, they were pre-programmed for certain things. Fire signs, they're going to be bold. They are not scared to speak their mind. They are fiery, as kind and warm. Fire signs are very warm, generous, friendly, love helping others. But at the same time, they are fire signs, meaning they'll burn you if you screw them over. They'll just feel a fire running through them, and it just feels uncontrollable. It feels impulsive, but also it's kind of spirit led. Usually if the sign is operating in the highest forms, you're going to get enraged by injustices against children, so that's where you step in. Like somebody has to step in, somebody has to do what others aren't willing to do. Maybe they want to do it. Most of our hearts want to step in and help and do this or speak up, but it's very risky. The fire signs are willing to do that. They've been burned many times. They've been fired many times. They've been backstabbed many times. They've gone through many trials, and they still are able to bring that warmth and that love. Again, operating in the highest form, But, Aries, we're going to be inspirational. We're going to be optimistic, encouraging, similar to Sagittarius, similar to Leo. But also, we can flip real quick. We got to switch. Like, don't disrespect us. If we can go out of our way to treat you kind, please don't disrespect us. Please don't bring that side out. Excuse me, y'all. I'm still getting over the pneumonia. Anyways, water signs, they're going to be very emotional. Why? Water merges with their surroundings. That's why they're so fluid and adaptable and powerful in that sense. They can adapt to any circumstances, hell or high water. They can merge with you and really understand you on an intuitive level. Fire signs, like I said, we're going to be kind of leaders, initiators. Leo, for instance, they're actors, And I think, having a Leo placement as a lawyer or a teacher, that's a good thing. Because you're going to perform your best. You're going to be on. You thrive from that. From having the stage and teaching others, inspiring others, you're going to give your all. Earth signs, they're more practical, grounded, connected to the earth, beautiful. They're typically beautiful. Their senses are more in tune than other signs. So when they say they don't like to eat something, believe them and trust them. Because if you try something that they don't like, typically you're going to be like, oh, this is nasty. You should just listen. But, they're going to be more connected to material things of this earth. Whereas you have more spiritual signs, which is water and fire, even air. Air is going to be more intellectual, connected to Mercury, kind of in the clouds. They're similar to water, but in a different way. But they can still flow and adapt to their environment at a high level, and they're intellectual more than emotional. So they're typically very intelligent. Fire and air get along. The air fans the fire's flames. Water and typically earth get along because water is so emotional and sometimes not practical. Sometimes they're literally connected to a different realm. In a sense, that's where they get their intuition from. You don't have to really say something to a water sign. They are gonna merge with you so much. They're gonna feel your pain. They are going to understand intuitively, your trauma, what you've gone through, your fears even. Fire sign is very intuitive as well. It's just a little bit, it'll burn you. But a lot of times fire signs are led by this by spirit. When we get mad about injustice, that's spirit saying this is not okay. And you cannot sit back. When we feel convicted, we have to act. But luckily we have the courage to act. A lot of times we go through harsh, intense failures in a sense, very hard times because we are impulsive and we are intuitive and we don't mind going through trials by fire, you know. Whereas other signs, they're more calculated, they're more cautious, they're more about stability. We will go through the fire, we'll get burned. But what's worse is not feeling convicted and not doing something about it. As we get older, we learn to do this more intelligently, more aware of the risks. We get more in our mindset of risk management. We still gonna do something about it, but it's gotta be smart. I was raised by a Gemini mother and an Aquarius father, and man, everything was a lesson in a sense. They are very intelligent. My mom, she's super psychic, super intuitive, whatever you want to put that towards. I see the patterns amongst all religions, so I am kind of looking at it from a bird's eye view, and that might offend some people, but that's not my intention. That's just, my beliefs. I respect whatever anyone else believes because at the end of the day, if we're connected to spirit and we are putting in work to better ourselves, how can you be mad about how that comes? Because as a collective, the more we grow, the better the earth gets, the better, the less wars we have. But yeah, that was just on my mind. Astrology is, some people think it's demonic, a part of the occult, forbidden knowledge. But for me, again, I see the patterns in everything. So anything that helps me become more self-aware and have more self-actualization, me reading something and, for instance, doing yoga, meditating, that's not of the devil. I feel more connected to God and I can actually hear God more. I can hear spirit more because I'm calming my body. It's simply a metaphysical thing. It's physics. It's energy. So when you understand energy, yeah, it does seem like you are more connected to spirit because you are. Anyways, peace, y'all. I hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for tuning in.